As we said just now, we started Ois Samach again, and we learned the first paragraph of the first section over there. And there he summarized that the preceding, that there are two levels of Makil HaKlot. One is called Tehillah Law, the higher purity, and one is called Tehillah Tator. One is called lower purity. And then he says that both are Makifim, that encompass all the worlds in total equality. In other words, both are superior to worlds completely. Nonetheless, it is imperative to say, the Seichel compels you to say that there's a difference. And the difference is not just in themselves, there's a difference in terms of their effect and how they affect and how they are surrounding the world. And this is where the question is, it is important to know, to understand the difference in their effect to Makifim, how the two Makifim affect the world. Even though they're both Makifim, they're both super worldly, yet there's a difference in how they affect the world. Now, in general, what is Makif mean to the world? Makif is way above. He said it is totally unaffected and does not recognize the differences in the world. So, what is the significance of there being a Makif in the first place, as far as the world is concerned? So this we already, so to speak, discussed quite extensively. And as always, we point to a simple worldly illustration, motion. In the world, there is created Hashomayim and Oretz. The Shomayim is way above, and there are no different pathways, so to speak, in the Shemayim. The Shemayim is all one expanse without giving any kind of indication that it is affected by what it surrounds. Because it doesn't, it isn't. It does not have earthly qualities at all. There is no composite entities in the Shemayim. It's one huge expanse of equal purity. And it is infinitely superior in its purity, in its simplicity to earth. Yet, the Shemayim do have an effect on earth, and the fact that they are surrounding the earth, that they are makifim to the earth, is very significant from the earth experience, from the earthly experience. In the earthly experience, where every detail has to be accounted for and recognized. As you're walking on the earth, you have to identify, recognize every different contours, because otherwise you'll stumble and fall. Yet, the fact that the Shemayim encompasses and surrounds it has a tremendously important significance, effect on earth. And the effect of it is as follows. While you are going around on earth and you're constantly avoiding pitfalls, and you're constantly conscious of the possibility of pitfalls, this should be very disturbing. You're at ease. Because you have to be constantly aware and conscious and focused on every step. The Shemayim that encompasses and surrounds it provides for a higher perspective even while you are treading on earth. Yes, indeed, I have to be careful with all the twists and turns on earth. But this does not define the entire reality in which I function. This is all earthly challenges. But in fact, what am I relating to? Where do I function? What is my overall perception of reality? It is on the Shemayim level. The Shemayim encompasses it all, and all of these twists and turns on earth is only in order to stay connected to the Shemayim. And the Shemayim, this lifts you out completely from all the pitfalls on the earth. This is the effect of a makir. The makir thus is not just a remote, uninvolved, disinterested, superior quality aspect. It's a makir. It is presenting, giving its superiority to the lowly earth.
One more time. It's not removed and distant. It is what?
It is providing its superior quality to the earth. That's what the makir. Makir is not oblivious of earth. It is not affected by earth, but it's not oblivious. It wants to give earth a Shemayim sense. That's why it's called a makir.
Does remain ineffective, yet wants to provide for earth.
It wants to provide its quality to earth. It doesn't become effective. Because if it becomes effective, then it's useless.
It must remain pure, must remain unaffected.
It sounds like it would behoove us to rehash this again. Always, anytime, really. We spoke about this in the perspective of sight versus touch, and also on a higher level of Chochmah versus Bina. We all know that real understanding, grasp of knowledge, is at the level of Bina. When you decipher the content in all its ramifications. Yet Chochmah is of utmost importance. Chochmah is the conceptualized reality, whence the Bina ventures out from. Although the full understanding is of the Bina, it is the Chochmah that maintains a sense of reality throughout the twists and turns of Bina. So Chochmah is almost like a makif to the Bina. And here is where we can actually correlate it to the exact question over here in this Maimon. Because Chochmah is the lower level of the makif. The higher level of makif is the Rotzen and Oimek. Even in a human level. So therefore, there are these two levels of makif. Both are effective, have an effect upon the further development of the seichel of Bina and Das. And there's a difference between the effect of each one of these, even though both are superior to the Bina. As we can see, that anything we touch upon, we can delve into it further and further and stay on it indefinitely. And therefore, we must force ourselves to proceed further. So we go further in the bottom section of page Kuflin Gimel. Again, the question that we are attacking over here, we are dealing with is, what is the difference between the effect of the makif, of the different levels of makif and kloli, Tehira Tato and Tehira Ilor, upon the world? How is the world affected differently by Tehira Tato versus Tehira Ilor, of the higher level of makif versus the lower level of makif? Both are makif. And in our emotion that we just now identified, how is Bina affected differently by Chochmah versus Rotzen and Oimek? A higher perception. Since we mentioned it, it's incumbent to give it some defining qualities. The difference between Chochmah and Rotzen and Oimek, which if we think into it, we can readily recognize it. Chochmah is a phenomenal seichel quality, but Chochmah is an observer. It's an observer of tremendous quality of purity, but nonetheless it's an observer. It is not one that is really experiencing it and living therein. It can bring it down to Bina, but it itself is an observer. Like sight. Sight you can see and see and see. It doesn't affect you. You know, but it's not become part of your grasp, of your reality. Oineg and Rotzing, this is a real personal experience. This is me. Rotzing is where I live, where I exist. This is part and parcel of the definition of who I am, of what I am.
Usually, seems like we say, Ratan Ainega Makifi. Here we're saying, this is me, sounds pnimi.
No, okay, good. No, Pnimi, you have to get it clear. And clear, it means something that I know and I grasp. Not something that I don't grasp. It is me. It is my reality. It's not my reality because I know what it is. I hear what you're saying, and once I got into this, I have to clarify this. When we say pnimi, please follow this. Pnimi means that I can grasp it and I can know what I'm grasping. It's a koyach pnimi. It's a koyach. Life, for example, is also a pnimi. It is the reality that I experience. But I don't know, I cannot identify what life is. It's not a pnimi from a koyach perspective. From experiential, I don't experience life, I live life. True, living life is a pnimi, but it's not pnimi in terms of koyach pnimi. Koyach pnimi means something that is grasped in a keli, identifiable. We do not identify with life is. We don't live with life by first identifying what it is.
And we got into Ratzon and Eineg, Chochmah and Bina to bring out why do we get into this and what do we say? How did we get into that and what are we saying about them?
Them what?
These four. Ratzon, Eineg, Chochmah and Bina. We got into this to indicate
to identify the principles of Makifi and different levels of Makifi. Here the Rebbe said, we identify two different levels of Makifi. And so we translated that on the human level. And so the human being also has different levels of Makifi. First, Chochmah is part of Seichel. But the Seichel level of Chochmah is superior to Bina completely. One glass in Chochmah produces all that follows in Bina. In one glance.
Okay, so this is the lower level of Makiv. Okay.
That's right. As we discussed many times, as one pursues the Seichel and deciphers all aspects of Bina, he is keenly aware of the Chochmah element, whence this all branches from.
Did you just say Chochmah is the lower level? Isn't it?
Level of Makiv, yes.
Isn't it Bina?
What? Bina is not a makif.
Oh, compared to Ratzon and Noga.
Right. Right.
It does seem like Chokhmah is some kind of mamutza because it is part of consciousness. But here we're calling it a makif.
In terms of identifiable seichel, Chokhmah is like a makif. There's no grasp what you see in Chokhmah. Like in Bina.
Okay.
This discussion this morning should clearly point out to us the necessity of delving in to one's personal own sense of seichel and clearly relate to what one thinks, what learns. The words themselves are not going to tell you what you're talking about. It is a personal involvement, personal identifying element within one's own seichel that really identifies. Because the words can confuse you all over the place. Is Chokhmah makif? Chokhmah is a pnimi. Chokhmah is seichel. Okay.
Third paragraph.
Yeah, we're going to the bottom part. V'hinei and behold. Again, pointing out, it begins with the word behinei. And the significance of the word behinei we discussed many times. Behinei means behold. Bring forth your chokhmah, your perception at the observation level, rather than on the ciphering and touch level. Then we were talking the same language. Piyulas ha-makif v'tirat haTorah. The effect of the makif, the level of tirat haTorah, of the lower purity. You're talking now in worlds, but we'll translate it how it is on the human level. The effect of the makif of tirat haTorah of the lower level. Of purity, level of makif. The Hainu, which is Bechinas Machshava Hagduma Diyak. This is the Bechina of what's called Machshava Hagduma, the pristine thought of Adam Kadmon. We discussed this presentation. Machshava Hagduma Diyak. The pristine thought. Now, this should conjure out the question by us. What is thought versus seichel? And this we point out many times. Thought is many times confused with seichel, but they're not the same thing. Seichel is a koyah hanefesh. We understand seichel because we have a nefesh and because we have oineg and rotze behind the seichel. Thought is a tangible aspect. Thought is presented with words and letters and sentences and structure. In the level of thought itself, there's an element that's called a makif. Because in thought, even though thought is is specific dependent, content dependent. You cannot think without there being a definitive content. Yet, in thought itself, there is a level that's called machshava hagduma, the pristine thought, the original thought, the thought that is first venturing out from that which is higher than thought. This thought is also a makif, but it's not a makif in the purest sense of the word, because it already has content. Yet all the content within the thought is embraced by the thought quality. Again, this is words of a higher caliber, but let me put it into our world. He gave this motion many times. You're looking down from an Empire State Building perch onto the ground, and you see all that's going on, all the various streets and all the people and the cars and everything moving, everything that is present currently on Earth. And you're observing it. You're observing it with your eyes and your thought.
Sorry, this is going to be a mashal for what?
For a superior thought level. Thought on the level of makif. Hello?
Right.
You observe every detail, but you're not observing the detail by experiencing the detail itself. It is part of the overall landmark. You're looking up from Empire State Building, you're seeing whatever it is, the whole area over there.
This is like the content of the first thought, like the view from above.
That's right. But that's a thought, right? It's not a market of a higher quality. It's thought. Everything is existing. All the details are identifiable there, are recognized. But you're not identifying them from a detailed perspective. Identifying them how they are part of the bigger picture.
I don't get much sense of why that glance from above is in any way similar to thought.
Say again?
Is in any way similar or a good mashal for thought.
Because you cannot possibly observe it without seeing all the details there. Compare that sight to looking at the sky.
Yeah, but usually we talk about sight as corresponding to chokhmah. So here there's so for starters it's a sight, and secondly it's from above. So I'm not really getting how that corresponds in any way to thought. Usually sight corresponds to chokhmah, not thought. That's all. I'm just not getting how the mashal tells us anything about thought.
Okay, that's why, Vihine, please bring your intellect into this. Don't take the words, but think the concept. When you observe from a high perch, do you observe sky or observe earth?
Earth.
Didn't ask you.
Okay.
Yeah. What do you think?
What's the difference between observing sky and observing Earth? Sky is one huge expanse. It's not composed of details, of components. Earth is composed of components.
What about clouds?
What?
Just teasing. What about clouds?
Clouds. Okay, so let's get through this. Again, I'm giving a muscle for sight, for observation from on top, for machshava hagdum. Just, okay, machshava, this is a makiba. Come on, let's bring ourselves to hine. Let's bring our real sense of reality in there, our personal sense of reality. When you observe from on top, are you observing sky? Are you observing Earth?
You're looking down. This is clear. You know?
Well, I'd like to answer that.
Earth. You're looking
Earth.
downwards. Yeah.
But in Earth, every piece is an entity unto itself. Earth is a composite. It's always a composite of different pieces. Are you observing it in a composition of different pieces?
No. I mean, you could start to divide it up, but in that
That's
one
right.
glance, you don't
The
really.
glance is not that. It doesn't.
You see the
it doesn't-
field, the river, the
That's
town,
right.
all from above.
Okay, so here is where you have observation of detail, but you're not identifying it. You're not observing it by component. You're observing it by content.
Fine, and we're saying that is like machshava hakduma. This is the
That's
first
right. So
thought.
this is seeing detail and in a makif level.
So we're saying there is content, but it's completely.
Contained within that which encompasses it.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay? So this content, well, this content is encompassed. This is called the lower level of makif. Because encompassing is a makif. The idea this makif is not devoid of its components.
Right.
And yet it's not built by the components.
Okay. Right.
This
I
is
mean-
why it's called the level of level. Okay, I'm sorry. Finish.
I think I'm still stuck with why. I mean, I get all that we've said, but that it's bechinas machshava hakduma da'ak. Why isn't it bechinas re'iyah hakduma da'ak?
Because as you're observing from on top, you're identifying, you see everything, all the details.
Re'iyah.
No. Re'iyah is like seeing the sky.
So even though it's the view, it's the sight from above, we're calling it thought because.
Because there's components there. There's content.
Okay, fine. Then my other issue is usually thought, especially at this level, we'd say originates from within. It's not a response to a view. It's not initiated from outside.
No, it responds to a view, but okay. Again, please lose sight of the words. View, Chochmah also has components, but Chochmah does not see things by identifying the components.
Yeah, right. It sort of starts from initiated from within. So too here we're saying, even though the mashal was.
1 second. Initiating from within needs to be put into perspective. You cannot see with closed eyes.
Yeah, but okay.
So how is it initiated from within?
Well, this is machshava, or an inner sight. I mean, how is it initiated from within? It's ark, so presumably it's the start of everything. He's not looking at there's no outside.
So let me answer. Think through your answer.
Go ahead. What?
It is your words.
Yeah.
So I said, but has it initiated from your closed eyes? Can you see with closed eyes?
No.
So has it initiated from within?
Right, but close that. Can you? I mean,
tricky answer would be you can think with both eyes.
Right, and an insight, it's not your physical eyes. An insight is. An, I'm just trying to get what the Nimshal is actually telling us, rather than
I know
the
what you.
mashal.
I want you to get it. This is why we're going through it, and hopefully this will be some kind of a catalyst for further methods of observation. Please follow this. And follow this with your seichel, not with your ears
Or your feet.
or your feet. When you're observing, like we said before, you're observing from top, and you're observing the entire area at a glance, although there is full content in it.
Does this refer to what you call panorama sometimes?
Oh, yeah. What is the means by which you're able to observe it like this? Can you also get that sense from touch?
No.
No way. What is it inside that gives you that higher sense? Enables you to see from a higher perspective, even though you're seeing lowly entities. The answer is that you have deep down in your own intellect, you have what's called chokhmah. And you have the sense, yes, indeed, there are details, but the details are completely absorbed in something greater and something more real. Akin to a sky. This sense is coming from inside. This is not something that you find out by looking at Earth. This is something which comes from inside, because on the inside, you know the reality is not broken down into pieces. It's one huge reality. You know that you can walk on Earth endlessly. You know what I'm envisioning? So here we have a makif that is full of components. But even though it's full of components, it is not composed of components.